All right, welcome. It is March 13th, and it is after the daily close for the crypto market. So just wanted to hop on. It's been a few days here. Have a few more updates, some things I want to talk about on this call. So excited to hop on here and dive in. So the whole goal is just kind of document what I'm looking at in this space and to start to get a feel for whoever's watching what you guys are looking for in terms of what you want to see more of, and we'll take it from there. So let's go ahead and get started. I would say the big thing that at least I was thinking about today is Bitcoin and how Bitcoin is becoming kind of that dream come true for crypto people, right? It's really interesting. I don't want to necessarily say I'm a crypto person or something like that, but generally people in crypto they've been looking at Bitcoin and saying that this thing is going to be part of the next mass adoption. This is going to be the next major asset that's going to bleed into the rest of the world, into major financial institutions. And it's actually happening. It's happening with the advent of the Bitcoin spot ETF. So that's super exciting. It's one of those things that, at least for me, you never really, I mean, the odds are low that you're part of what you believe the future is going to be, because humans are historically terrible at predicting the future. So, like, for example, not many people thought that we'd be spending our lives on Zoom calls, and having this pandemic happen and really having work from home culture. Even before that, were we thinking that we would have had our lives on social media, like right now, posting this to YouTube or other social media channels. Before that, would we thought that we'd be basically working on computers and dealing with the internet and transacting and having stores over the internet? So really, historically, we've been pretty bad at predicting the future. And of course, some people, are right and they knew stuff was coming. But for the crypto people, this is like one of those things where it's like, okay, maybe we are onto something in terms of what is going to happen to crypto in the future. That it is going to be something that is more globally adopted. And that's what we're seeing. And I'll just kind of dive in and talk about what I have been saying, but it's really exciting stuff. It's cool to be a part of if you're either new to crypto or if you've been around for a while. I'm sure you can agree it's cool to be a part of. So let's go ahead and dive in and just look at Bitcoin really quickly. And Bitcoin, we talked about this on the last call here. This is the prior highs for Bitcoin at 69,000. And Bitcoin is pushing well above that right now, which is really cool because that basically invalidates all of the claims that said that Bitcoin was never going to be anywhere close to 69,000 again. Now it is clearly above that. So the question I'm trying to answer is, what has driven that to be this high, and are those catalysts going to be there in the future, or are there going to be other catalysts that are going to happen for Bitcoin? So let's go ahead and dive into a few of those. Okay, let's see. Start over here. So today, I believe, today, the Bitcoin, or yesterday, I'm sorry, I felt that was coming. Yesterday, the Bitcoin ETFs bought $1 billion worth of Bitcoin in one day. That's pretty crazy to think of those numbers, and to actually start to understand what those numbers mean. Is this right here, Quentin, or 48.eth or 048.eth? He says, new milestone, the Bitcoin ETFs now own over 4% of the current Bitcoin supply. That is a wild number. The Bitcoin ETFs have only been around for basically a quarter, just 3 months. And to have already 4% of the supply is pretty shocking. And extrapolating just a little bit further into the future, if you just say this is going to happen every quarter, by Q3, Q4, these ETFs could have 10% of the Bitcoin supply under their belts. So they could own 10% of this supply, which is wild. I actually want to show something as well on Bitcoin. Let's see if I can find this. Sorry about that. This kind of jumped off the top of my head. Oh, where is this thing? Well, either way, you can see in this article, Bitcoin's market cap jumps to 1.4 trillion, surpassing silver. That is absolutely wild. There we go. I'm sorry. Now I found the website. It's companiesmarketcap.com. And you can see here it's top assets by market cap. You have gold number 1, Microsoft number 2, Apple number 3, Nvidia number 4, and so on and so forth, until we get to number 8, which is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin just passed silver. I mean, who would have thought Bitcoin would be greater than silver? You know, is that going to be at some point greater than gold? Is Bitcoin going to be the number 1 asset in the world? It's number 8 right now, largest asset. And this is coming very freshly off of where people have still been saying Bitcoin's nothing. Bitcoin's no big deal. It's going away. You know, it's a pet rock, as some analysts say. So to be the 8th largest asset in the world right now, that's pretty wild to see. So very interesting. Another thing I want to talk about is the balance of Bitcoin, because there is starting to be, the balances of Bitcoin. There's starting to be a kind of supply shock in the mix for Bitcoin. So if we look at Bitcoin exchange balances, if we scroll down and we go, we go right here to the total. So you have all of these exchanges. You have Binance, Bitfinex, Coinbase Pro, all of the balances that they hold, and you get a tally at the bottom here to 1.8 million, which is around 8%. So there's only 8% of Bitcoin left on public exchanges, and there's rumors that on even the OTC market that Bitcoin is getting more scarce. So there's a huge demand factor. Clearly, we're looking at the $1 billion inflows from the ETFs just yesterday, and then we have 4% of the Bitcoin supply already bought up by these ETFs. So that's a huge demand factor, let alone what retail is doing and other institutions are doing. Apparently, there's a statistic out there that's saying that 2/3 of advisors are actually pro Bitcoin, that they want to help their clients get into having some Bitcoin exposure, which is pretty wild. And now we're looking on the supply side where we're seeing only 1.8 million Bitcoin available on public exchanges, which is around 8% of the supply. Now, what happens when that goes to, under a million or under 500,000 or close to zero in some degrees? Are we going to see something wild happen to Bitcoin? Because I do not believe, if we go ahead and look in the charts here, I don't believe that we necessarily have seen supply shock yet for Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't necessarily become scarce yet. Yes, Bitcoin is getting bought up. I really think that's more the ETF factor. But because the supply doesn't need to be in some sort of shock yet, right? There's millions of Bitcoin, or around 2 million Bitcoin on exchanges. But when this starts getting lower to, say, I don't know, under 100,000 Bitcoin on exchanges, what will the price look like? And I think this is something that is hard to necessarily price in, what that is going to look like. I don't think the markets have historically seen many supply shocks. I believe there was a supply shock in silver at one point, and the price of silver shot crazy sky high, and there had to be regulations because of it. So this could get very interesting for Bitcoin here. And something that I've been thinking about is when it comes to the price of Bitcoin, you really got to start to think of this. Bitcoin is currently sitting, let's see here. at $73,000 a Bitcoin. Now that's pretty nuts. I think that's well over what the average household in America is making, let alone anybody in the world. So we're now coming into a very unique point in time where the price of Bitcoin is going to have to be, I think, named differently at some point. We can't just say for the average person, hey, can you give me 0.00001 Bitcoin? I think this is going to start to act like a commodity in terms of something like gold or wheat or corn. You have bushels of corn, and then you have one corn cob, right? And then you have corn kernels. So, like, is Bitcoin going to have to be broken down something like that? Say there's gold. I mean, not gold, oil. So oil is measured in barrels typically when it comes to futures or commodities, and then we put it in our cars in gallons. And then if you think of gold, even we're not just saying kilos of gold, like buying and selling kilos of gold typically for the average individual. You're looking at ounces of gold. So what is Bitcoin going to have to turn into is the question. And because the math isn't going to work out. So I think very soon we are going to have to start seeing Bitcoin named something else. And the most likely term is going to be Satoshis. And some people still use this today. And I believe one Satoshi is 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. I could be wrong, but I believe it's 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin, saying that if Bitcoin reaches $100 million a coin, that one Satoshi would basically equal one, right? $1. So this is going to be interesting to see how Bitcoin is going to translate into everyday operations. There's a big debate whether Bitcoin is going to be a means of transaction versus a store of value. A lot of people argue that Bitcoin is it's hard to be a means of transaction, and some people agree with that. Also, some people don't agree that Bitcoin even needs to be or ever will be a means of transaction. I think a lot of people just assume that Bitcoin is supposed to be a means of transaction. Well, there's many other things that are not means of transactions that people use to store their value. Gold being one of them. We're not transacting with gold. Yes, there have been currencies that have been backed by gold, but that's one example. Another example could be real estate. People do store their money. They buy real estate, but they're not buying things with their real estate. So Bitcoin doesn't necessarily need to be a means of transaction on a day-to-day basis. And also there are layer 2 protocols like the Lightning Network that can help Bitcoin transact faster. So that's one perspective to think about in terms of Bitcoin, is whether or not Bitcoin is going to be this transactional thing, or is it just going to be mainly a property, if you will, more of a store of value. And I think that's the main use case that most investors are using Bitcoin for. And given that, you actually have a unique situation, because a lot of people think, all right, well, when are people going to cash out of Bitcoin? I think that's the big question. You're looking at the chart here and you're seeing Bitcoin rise high here. Is Bitcoin going to crash because people are going to be cashing out? Now, that's a good question. Now, the question I have been thinking about is, well, if you're a traditional Bitcoin holder and you're holding due to the store of value, due to that it is hard money, it is basically the hedge against a fiat system. That's typically how Bitcoin was created, is to hedge against these things. It's to be programmed money rather than the dollar system or the fiat systems where you can print the money into infinity and get this hyperinflation that seems to happen over and over again in collapsing systems. So if you're an individual who's holding Bitcoin as a store of value and a hedge against fiat systems, what are you going to sell your Bitcoin into? It's probably not cash. And then you have to kind of evaluate Bitcoin against other assets. And that's going to be an interesting one to see. And if you do think on a transactional basis, maybe people are going to be transacting Bitcoin to Bitcoin. So maybe you're not going to see as much direct cash selling, or maybe we're not going to see as much direct cash selling as we anticipate. Now, I could be years off, I could be totally off, but these are just concepts that rattle around in my brain. So, yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about a few other things here and the market in general. Let's see here. I think I got a few more things I wanted to talk about on the fundamental side. I don't know if I can scroll out here. Yeah, check out this. You have the balances of Bitcoin in green here. And the balances, they did kick up a little bit here in 2024, but they keep getting pressed down. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Maybe we are going to see a supply shock. That would be awesome. Okay, another piece of news here is Ethereum had what's called a Denkan upgrade. And this is the biggest upgrade since the merge, says it right here. And essentially this upgrade is it's making Ethereum more scalable, but specifically towards the layer 2 protocols, which are the protocols built on Ethereum to help it work better, to help it work faster and cheaper. They're like, I don't want to say this, but band-aids on top of Ethereum as Ethereum is being upgraded. So what this does is it makes layer 2 fees cheaper. Now, although that sounds exciting, layer 2s by nature already had pretty cheap fees. So this upgrade to Ethereum is really making cheap fees cheaper. It's not solving the main issue where Ethereum itself is crazy expensive. If you were making any sort of transactions on Ethereum recently, you would have noticed that it was probably over $100 per transaction, which is nuts. However, this upgrade, it might make kind of as a downstream effect, it might make Ethereum transactions on its base layer a little bit cheaper, which would be awesome. But overall, this is helping the layer 2 protocols on Ethereum. So let's see here. Here we go. It significantly reduces transaction fees of the layer 2 network and enhances the overall scalability. Okay. Next thing is something I haven't heard a lot of people talking about, but I think is actually a pretty big deal. And this is MasterCard and MetaMask. They test their first blockchain-powered payment card. So it's issued by a company called Banks, and the card would let users spend their crypto on everyday purchases everywhere the cards are accepted according to, the materials. So let's talk about this. This is something I think is bigger than kind of it looks on paper. For one, MetaMask is the number one DeFi wallet. And so that's the one that most people use. And people have all these coins inside there, but these people right now aren't spending these coins on purchases. They're very not useful in everyday life. They're great to trade amongst other coins. You can swap them from different coins, you can put them on exchanges, you can stake them. That's all good. But to bridge into mass adoption, the key thing here is kind of using it in our everyday life rather than just trading, at least in my opinion. So what MasterCard and MetaMask partnering up is doing is allowing people to actually use a card and spend their crypto directly with a card. Now that is huge in my opinion. You're now taking the most popular wallet and giving it a real world functionality for all these coins to where you could actually spend much more easily on purchases, especially if it's working through MasterCard, which many places use. So I think that's pretty big news if that happens. So let's go ahead and dive into the charts just a little bit, give a little bit of an overview of what I am looking at. So if we go into the total crypto market, so the total crypto market, if we're looking over here, has not hit its highs yet. Still has a little bit to go. Maybe if Bitcoin is the leader here, we are going to see crypto not only, or the overall crypto market not only hit these highs, but actually push past them. which would be super cool if we saw this happen and get some more gains out of the total crypto market. Let's see what else here. Let's go into some altcoins. Let's see what's going on in the altcoin space. Like I said before, one of the things that has been challenging, especially trading from the United States, is the United States market was really it's been a slow market for crypto right now. And all of the major moves have been happening kind of during the London session. So it looks like the European markets are actually more bullish on crypto right now, or Wall Street's just brutal and they're just nailing people in the open here and hitting those FOMO traders. So very interesting. It's been kind of frustrating. Let's talk about some that I've been working on here. So there's this project here called Mobile. It is Helium's mobile network, which is a really awesome project, decentralized internet cell phone service. Really, really crazy. Very, very simple, straightforward trade here that I'm trying to get into. Just seeing this market break above into new highs. Took that trade, actually put some take profit levels on here. So hit my first one, trailing my stop, but that's looking good so far. Another one that was kind of a big mover is Aurora. Let me adjust this really quick. So got into Aurora. This is actually a coin I've gotten into twice. I took a trade back here, got around 152%. That was great, about a 6-1. And then it just kind of pulled back and caught the breakout again and just decided to take 50% off here around 2.7. Actually kind of lucked out on taking profit there. This is pulling back pretty hard and just moved my stop loss to break even. Avalanche seems like it's turned to start moving here just a little bit, kind of catching this extension on Avalanche. It looks kind of like a weird buy-in, but really it's getting in towards this demand zone and seeing where this area broke super hard. So big sellers there where there were buyers, and since these sellers were invalidated, I got in, and it's looking really nice too. Some of the trades that I really like are those that break out, they don't come back to my entry and start pushing upwards. So that is looking pretty good. So those are kind of the biggies that I'm looking at. I'm in a few more. Injective, it's actually looking pretty good here. Broke out, didn't come back. Got a few positions on here. But nothing that I really want to talk about in terms of the newbies. But overall, the market is heating up. We talked about before the meme coin rallies. There's some big meme coin rallies. You can see Doge here pushed up. Let's see here, about 94%. Cooled back just a little bit. Sheeb, all the same thing. Pushed up 154% from my entry, pulling back. Bonk, just basically got into all the dog coins. They all run at the same time, these meme coins. 165% on Bonk, but pulling back just a little bit. So I'm not sure what the next narrative is. It was meme coins, but we'll have to see as the market heats back up again. I think it's going to come back into layer ones again. We're starting to see Solana here pushing up pretty high, looking to potentially enter Solana again. Haven't been having the best luck with Solana. Got trailed out at break even on this last position. But you got Injective pushing up. Like I said, Avalanche pushing up. Near pushing up. So more like the newer, higher performance layer ones. Near went up 79%, took 50% off. Thought about taking 50% off again, but I like Near enough that I think I'm going to try to ride this one. So, yeah, that's basically what I'm looking at. I think the market should start to get a little bit bullish here. One thing I will pull up right before we end. Actually, let's go into the browser. Let's go into the economic calendar. Let's go yesterday. So a big one yesterday that happened is our inflation data. We had month over month, year over year. And you can see here for month over month, the prior was 0.3%, the actual is 0.4, so it was higher. And then for year over year, 3.1 came in at 3.2. So these were kind of upset numbers, but the market didn't really act that negatively. And the reason being is, let's see here, go to the interest rate tool just to give you guys an idea. If you aren't familiar, the Fed and its interest rate hikes have really been driving the market. So this is where I think the market is going to kind of be a-okay here. We have a 99% chance right now for March 20th, the rate decision, that rates are going to be held constant. So it's kind of like things are going to stay normal for a while. And even if you look at May, there's a 93% chance that things are going to stay consistent. And all the way until June, do we actually see a potential rate cut of 64%. So this is kind of saying that the market is probably not going to expect any sort of rate cuts all the way until June. And the market kind of likes normalcy right now. And if we're going to see a bunch of normalcy in the interest rates, we might see this market just trend in the way it has been trending, just do what it's been doing since there weren't any interest rate hikes last month. So what is the market doing right now? Let's just go like on a daily time frame. What is the trend doing right now? The trend is upward. So hopefully all else equal happens and we just see this trend continuing on. But of course, that's just my speculation. So overall, that's all I wanted to do to hop on today. Talk about the potential impacts that we could see with Bitcoin, talk a little bit about some of the new developments coming in the space, the Ethereum upgrade, we have the MetaMask and MasterCard partnership, and then looking into some of the altcoins that are popping up. We had our meme coin rally. Now it looks like new layer ones are starting to rally here. So that might be a place of interest. And we have an interest rate environment that looks like it's going to be stable here for the next few months. So overall, my goal here is just to kind of look for the trend to continue here, look for more long positions, and continue to enjoy this little bull market that we are having, or a decent bull market that we're having, depending on how you're doing. So hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know anything that you guys want to see in this space, and I'll make sure to hop on and do what I can to fulfill that need. So thank you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.